25 years in prison? You f***ing insane?
Yes, I am.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Brain Blaze. As always, I am your host Simon Wimers here, one of my writers, and in this case, scroll down please, tell Kevin has written me a script. I've never read it before. It's Eddie Tipton and the biggest lottery scam in US history. I'm going to read it. Sam, our wonderful video editor, is going to edit it. That's what they do. And let's jump in, shall we? I still remember the day I bought my first scratch tickets. We call them scratch cards in the UK. These things are such a scam. I've told this story before, right? I mean, I've told the story I worked in a newsagent 1,000 times to the point where people are in the comments, if I hear the newsagent story again, I'm going to cry. But of course, it was, I worked there for like months. It was apparently a very large part of my life. And just people would come in and they'd not have very much money and they looked like they didn't have much money and they would buy loads of scratch cards and they wouldn't win anything. And when they did, they would spend it on more scratch cards. There was even some kid who was like a paper boy. He delivered the paper and he made, I don't know, a few pounds an hour delivering papers. And he once won £1,000 on the scratch tickets. And I'm telling you exactly where that £1,000 went. It went into more scratch tickets and probably energy drinks. It's really depressing. I think they should be banned. Do I? I'm not sure. Maybe they should. It's really It was my 18th birthday and I had absolutely no interest in gambling, but I figured that I may as well buy one scratch ticket now that I was legally able to say that I did. I think when I was a kid, you could buy these things at 16, as well as cigarettes, which was weird. I grabbed a $2 ticket at a local convenience store, assuming I was never going to see any of that money again, and writing it off voluntarily, assuming I was never going to see that money again and writing it off as voluntary taxes. In America, does it go to the government? Like in the UK, scratch tickets run by it's complicated, but I think the lottery is approved by the government and there's only one. And then a lot of that money goes towards supporting like lots of projects and shit. There's like a lottery fund and then some of it goes to like paying out on the tickets and whatnot. But little did I realize that when I finally got home and scratched the ticket that I was actually going to win something. That something was just the $2 I had spent, and I was mildly annoyed by this. I exchanged the winning ticket for two $1 tickets and figured that would be the end of it. The first ticket was a loser, but on the second one I won $2. Now I was getting really pissed off. I was just trying to throw away a couple of bucks on something stupid for my birthday, yet it had somehow turned into what was beginning to feel like a never-ending chore.
A ticket for you, and a ticket for you, and tickets for everybody!
So today's video is brought to you by the best wallet in the world, according to me, and that's Ridge. And not only is this the best wallet in the world, right now Ridge's third annual summer sweepstakes is going on, brought to you in cahoots with their pals over at Hennessy, so you get hyped about that. Now imagine this. You're zipping around town in a brand new Ford Bronco. Or maybe, if you prefer, just rolling in some serious cash, and that's all thanks to Ridge and Hennessy. Wallets, performance cars, what do they have in common? Well, depending on which one you get, maybe it's carbon fiber. Look at this beautiful one. This one's made in collaboration with Hennessy. And it's a beautiful material, super nice, sleek, just like a sports car, right? And these wallets fit 12 cards, although I didn't have 12. I just got a couple of bank cards in here. Don't take them all the way out, Simon. And also, driver's license. That's what I carry around. But it can take up to 12, plus money, cash. Slips in the back there. Ridge brings you 30 colors. This is burnt titanium? I think, yeah, burnt titanium. They've also got regular titanium, carbon fiber, as I mentioned. Lots of great designs. Plus, they've got this thing for your keys. It's like a Swiss Army knife for keys. You open it up, you put the keys in. Takes about 5 minutes. Less than 5 minutes. It's super easy. And these are my work keys. Outside, top, bottom, mailbox. Easy. No more jangling around in the pocket. It's perfect. And this matches up with the wallet. Very nice. Plus, you get up to 30% off when you grab these two things together. Ridge's team are also so confident you'll love it. You can try it for 99 days. If you don't like it, just return it. It's risk-free. With Ridge's and Hennessy's summer sweepstakes, you can win a brand new Hennessy Ford Bronco Velociraptor or $75,000 in cold hard cash. It's your choice. And hey, here's the scoop. By entering on their website, you're in the running. No money needed. Enter for free on the website. For every $1 you spend on the site, you'll earn a bonus entry. Plus, custom Hennessy products like this beautiful thing here come with up to 1,000 extra entries. But wait, there is more. If you use my link ridge.com/blaze and use the code blaze, you'll get 10 extra bonus entries and 10% off. So that's nice. Thanks to Ridge for sponsoring. And now back to today's video. This process, like those Mr. Beast videos where he buys all those. I can't believe how many. There's like several of these videos where he's like, I bought 1,000 scratch cards. So it's like, okay. And what did you win? About 70% of the money I put in. It's like, it's extremely predictable because they'll have like a statistic about how much you'll win. And that's how much you're likely to win. And that's that. And if the top comment isn't, oh my God, he won $10 million, then he didn't. Did he? Like, I don't know, like, I like Mr. Beast. I think he is the biggest and probably the most brilliant creator on the platform, but I don't understand those particular videos. This process continued 5 or 6 times in total before I finally failed to get around to redeeming one of the tickets in time, and it expired. Had that not happened, I could still be trapped in an eternal game of hot potato with the government over my $2. I guess the lottery is government run. Or more realistically, the next ticket I would have purchased would have been a loser, and that would have been that. Who knows? Maybe if I'd stuck it out, I would have won the $1 million jackpot. It's not that likely, but there's always a chance. There's always a chance that Kevin's introduction might end sometime this fucking century.
Savage!
The fuck?
And for one man, the chances of winning were much higher than for anyone else. That's the end of the introduction. I was just, this is so long. A harmless joke. Back in the old days, when everything was analog, it would have been very difficult to rig the lottery. It may have been a popular trope on detective shows, but to actually manipulate the physical apparatus or the randomized balls to force a desired result in a way that wouldn't be easily detected would have been no small feat.
Batman, look at the size of those balls.
If it was a small feat, there'd have been a lot of problems. If it was always easy to rig the lottery, then there'd be a lot of people just winning the lottery over and over again, wouldn't there? Which you don't really hear about that much because it doesn't happen, because it's statistically extremely improbable. In fact, cases where people attempted to rig the lottery were extremely rare, but once many lotteries around the country became electronic, manipulating them theoretically became a lot more realistic. After all, unless you're using a quantum computer, then there's no way to generate a number that is truly random. Generally speaking, they are random enough, but they can be manipulated. The only problem is that you need to be able to physically access the lottery's number drawing computer, as these systems are kept entirely offline. The year was 2005, and Eddie Tipton was sitting at his desk in the Multi-State Lottery Association MUSL office in Urbandale, Iowa. I wonder if that's an urban environment. Yeah, it's like, how did he access the lottery machines? He worked at the lottery. The first people the lottery must look at are people who work at, like, if they suspect someone's like scamming the lottery, they'll be like, oh, it's one of us. It's definitely one of us. It's got to be an internal investigation. It's fucking Eddie, isn't it?
It was me, Barry.
He was the head of IT security. That's the first guy you'd look at. Although you're going to be like, yo, Eddie, can you see if someone's rigging this? And check all the people below you. Don't trust anybody, Eddie. And Eddie's just thinking, you trusted me, though, didn't you, you dickhead? A man with a lot of responsibility and who had been given a lot of trust with very little oversight. It was also a job that Eddie didn't really understand how he was even hired for. Not because he was incapable of doing the job, but because he had a criminal record. Head of the National Lottery's IT, or whatever lottery it was, IT security. Really? Criminal record, huh? At the age of 19, Eddie had been convicted of burglarizing a warehouse. Before that, he was convicted of stealing software, though it personally described their situation as simply being a Jerry Springer-style argument with a Sears employee. When he applied for a job with MUSL, he didn't expect a callback because of his record. He certainly didn't expect them to fly him down from Texas to Iowa for a second interview. Surely there must be lots of people interviewing or like interested in the head of IT security. That sounds like a job that pays, a good amount of money, especially for the lottery. They must have loads of money. And no, that's not how things work. But here's a criminal record. And I believe there should be, what's it called? Not recidivism, but the opposite of recidivism, for people who've been in prison. And I don't think that the criminal record should be something that you have to declare forever, unless it's a really terrible crime, like stealing software or burglary. Don't qualify. It just seems like, how later was this? And he did have to declare it. So why are they interviewing him? According to Eddie's account, it sounds like he even brought up his prior convictions in the interview. He probably assumed that there was no way he could get the job and just wanted to tell them that instead of wasting his time. But it wasn't a waste of time at all. They fingerprinted him, ran a background check, and for some reason cleared Eddie to be hired, even though it was illegal for people with a criminal record to work for the Iowa Lottery. They're reading it like, does he have a criminal record? Yes. Hi guys, I'm here for the interview. Just to let you know, so we don't waste anyone's time, I have a criminal record. And they check into it, and he doesn't have a... They're just like, yeah, go on, Eddie. You got it, mate.
Oh God, yes, you're hired.
Is this a job interview?
Oh, fuck yeah.
And that's...
Honestly, at this point, whose fault is it that he scammed them? Is it Eddie's? Because I'm kind of thinking it's the Iowa Lottery's fault, in my opinion. However, that law did not apply to employees in the MUSL office. Wait. The security office for the lottery, it's okay to have a criminal record, but not anywhere else. So the person on like the TV being like, and number 4 is 37! Or however they do it. I don't know, there's the ball drops out, all that shit. Maybe it's digital nowadays, look, it doesn't matter. But that person is like, can't have a criminal record. But old Eddie, head of IT security, no, he's golden, that's fine. That is insane, Iowa, in my opinion. Eddie described himself as being overworked doing the work of 4 to 5 employees across multiple departments. He said it even got to the point where the word slave was used, though it's unclear if his employers actually referred to him as such or not. I don't feel like they know what slavery is, because it's not that. It's like, oh no, I'm a slave. You were a slave? Oh my god. Are you okay? It's like, yeah, I had to do the job of 4 people. You're just being metaphorical, aren't you? Yeah, I am. And about the slavery thing? Yeah, that also.
Today's subject, slavery.
But based on my experience with narcissistic middle managers, I definitely wouldn't rule it out. Anyway, despite essentially working multiple jobs on this particular day in 2005, Eddie happened to have a little bit of a lull in his workload. During this downtime, he started thinking back to a conversation he and a co-worker had a few weeks earlier. His co-worker asked if he had put any special numbers into the software. Eddie didn't understand what he meant, and the co-worker clarified, you know, you can set the numbers on any given day since you wrote the software. The co-worker just said it as a joke, and it was something that Eddie hadn't even considered when he originally wrote the software. But now that he was overworked, underappreciated, and had time to think about it, he began to wonder if, well, really he could. And yes, he absolutely could. Eddie slipped 2 lines of code into the software, something he was confident that nobody would have ever noticed, and that was that. It didn't give him total control over the system. That would have been too obvious, but those 2 lines of code were enough for him to beat the odds. On 3 specific dates each year, instead of the odds of winning the lottery being 11 million to 1, for Eddie, there'd only be about 200 to 1. Everyone's favourite cryptid. With the malicious code in place, all Eddie needed to do was get someone to buy all 200 numbers and they were guaranteed to win. And he had the perfect person to do so, the Honourable Tommy Tipton. Tommy had been a sheriff's deputy and a SWAT team member back in Texas before being elected a Justice of the Peace. Hence the honorific. Wait, what was his honorific? Justice? Justice. Honourable. Ooh, fancy. Honourable, is that... I don't know if we have that in the UK. We have Right Honourable, which is for politicians, MPs, I think, get to be called Right Honourable. Fascinating tangent, Simon. Let's carry on. But he had another passion that took him all across the country. Thanks to his sick night vision goggles he had from his time working on the SWAT team, Tommy was able to spend nights hunting for Bigfoot. Do you get to keep those? I don't think he gets... It's like, yeah, no, I used to work at SWAT, so I had these night vision goggles, and they're like, weren't they part of your, work costume? Not costume, what do you call it? Outfit? Uniform. Police costume. What are you wear to wear? Police costume. It's a uniform, Simon, for fuck's sake. I don't think you get to keep that. They'll probably be like, he stole those night vision goggles. Night vision goggles can be enormously expensive, like thousands of dollars. Many multiples of thousands of dollars. Because they're apparently incredibly fancy. He even had a trip planned to Colorado on one of his 3 dates selected by Eddie, and Colorado was one of the states whose lottery used the MUSL software. Wait. This isn't just Iowa's lottery? He's writing the software for all of the other many different states' lotteries? Oh no! Before heading to Colorado, Tommy consulted with a lawyer friend of his to see if there was any legal reason he couldn't play the 200 numbers Eddie had given. It's a reasonable question since he was a relative of an MUSL employee, but the lawyer couldn't find anything about the plan that would be considered illegal. For Tommy. For Eddie, probably not. But that's okay, because this guy's Tommy's lawyer. Although if I was that lawyer, I'd be like, mate, better not, okay?
Y'all are going to jail! Period!
Not only was there nothing illegal about him playing the numbers, but Tommy's supposed friend seemed to think it was a really great idea. On the selected night, the 4.6 million jackpot was split between 3 winners. The winners were Tommy, some rando who bought a quick pick ticket, and a legal trust set up by Tommy's lawyer's friend's lawyer friend. This just sounds illegal. Doesn't it? It's like, so basically, there's 3... This is the thing, I always found this quite fascinating, that, you'll know a time traveler when they come back and they win 1.6 billion or whatever on the Powerball, because there's 3 winners and it's all them. Because if someone's told you the lottery numbers from the future and you're like, okay, I'll play those lottery numbers, buy as many tickets as you want with the same numbers. Because then, if there's one other winner by chance, you have to split that 1.6 billion with them. Whereas if you've got like 6 tickets, they're going to be really pissed off, but they're only going to get a 7th of those winnings, and you're going to get 6/7. I mean, this is really practical advice that you're definitely going to use in the future, Peter, so write it down. Maybe for when that future time traveling Peter comes back and tells you what numbers you're going to get. It's good advice, Peter.
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
Yes, the lawyer allegedly stole the numbers to play for himself when Tommy wasn't paying attention. Legend lawyer. Allegedly. He allegedly did that. Of course, Tommy didn't come forward as a winner. Instead, he offered another friend of his a 10% cut to redeem the ticket for him. After being split 3 ways, taking the lump sum and removing taxes, Tommy's ticket was worth about $500,000. But in 2006, the FBI was already knocking on Tommy's door. I know $500,000's a lot of money, but it's not worth going to prison for, is it? Although apparently it is, because a lot of people go to prison for a lot less than that. Or rather, the door to his hospital room. You see, hunting Bigfoot is a dangerous pastime. Tommy had been 31 feet off the ground in a tree, searching for the elusive and non-existent creature before he fell, landing him in hospital. That's where the FBI found him, but they weren't actually suspicious of a lottery scam. They were just there to ask him why he was trying to exchange $450,000 in consecutively marked bills. Exchange them to what? Yeah, this is like the thing, like, that you just roll up somewhere with $450,000 in cash. That's like a big pile of cash. It's like, I'd just like to trade these for other bills. Someone's gonna press the little red button marked like non-urgent, not like we're being robbed, but the other one, which is like call the FBI. Because this is like, even if it's not criminal, they want to check.
FBI, open up!
Agent Hitler, FBI.
I guess his friend had requested the lottery to be paid out in a briefcase so they could split it without creating a paper trail. Tommy was honest with the FBI that the money came from a lottery win and that he was trying to exchange the bills to hide the fact that he played the lottery from his wife, not because he didn't want to share the money with her, but his wife disapproved of gambling because of her deeply Christian values. Not actually a bad excuse, is it? Although, why wouldn't you just open up a new bank account in your own name? It's not like they tell your wife. You don't go to the bank and be like, open a bank account, and they're like, okay, so, and who's your wife we have to notify? You wouldn't, I mean, obviously not. While it's kind of a weird rationale, as it's not like his wife would be reading the serial numbers on all of the cash he spent, I suppose it would be, oh, wait, that's not why he did it, is it? I'm a little bit confused, I'm a little bit lost. I thought he was doing it to just hide it from his wife, and so I assumed it was like they had a joint bank account or whatever. And that was why I said just put it in another bank account that's not joint with your wife. It's not complicated, is it? It would just be suspicious if he constantly had a supply of extremely crisp and new $100 bills. Then again, it's not really gambling if you have a 100% chance of winning, so maybe she would have been cool with the whole thing. The FBI had come to investigate a suspicious banking transaction, not a suspicious lottery winner, so they either didn't know about Eddie or they didn't think to ask. And why would they? It's like, yeah, it's a very, like, it's a strange excuse, but it's totally reasonable. He's like, he asked for it in cash, because I guess that's his right. Surely if you win the lottery, you can't just roll up there and be like, cash please. They'll be like, bro, no, you need a check, you need a bank account, we're going to give you a check. Or they probably just do a wire transfer these days, don't they? I mean, although I know Americans use checks. I had an American sponsor and they were like, we'll pay you by check. And I'm like, bro. But it's like, bro, we're going to have to work out a way to like do a wire transfer because my like checks don't exist anymore in Europe. Like, I was like, I phoned my bank and I was like, can I deposit a check in like any currency? And they're like, no. Honestly, they were like, what's a check? And I was like, it's that thing where you write the name on it and they sign it and you get money somehow. I literally don't know how checks work. And they were like, no. And I'm like, are there any other banks that do this? And they're like, no. It was a hassle, I tell you. According to Tommy, they only asked him 2 questions during the entire interview, then made fun of him for hunting Bigfoot. Solid investigative work, boys. Why would they suspect him? It's just unreasonable. Like, this is not bad work by the FBI. For bad work by police, I've got a whole other podcast. It's called The Casual Criminalist. Sometimes really competent, sometimes not at all. FBI, usually pretty solid. It's the FBI. Honestly, on Casual Criminalist, it's like local cops, they're doing their local cop thing, and then it's like FBI gets involved, and it's like, oh, this shit's getting real. It's about to get solved.
FBI. FBI.
They had their chance later in 2006 when Eddie decided he'd had enough. He had chosen on a whim to see if he could pull off the scheme, and he had succeeded. Now it was time to undo what he had done, so he went to his boss to report a security risk in the system, as well as to request a second person to oversee the number generation software. Good for you, Eddie. The problem is you've already done this, and it seems like you're inviting a little bit of scrutiny onto yourself after you've committed... There's got to be a crime here, right? Like, fraud, maybe? Allegedly, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Let's find out. While his immediate boss took the concern seriously, nobody higher up the chain did. Eddie's software wound up being used in systems for 17 different state lotteries without the security risks being addressed. So if they weren't going to let Eddie remove his malicious code or assign another person to actually oversee some of the software and make sure he wasn't cheating, there was only one possible option left. Keep cheating for the next 5 years. And again, I say, like, who is really to blame here? Who's really to blame here? Is it Eddie? Is it Eddie? Or is Eddie just, he's like, well, you then. I know it's Eddie, but still. The code only worked on 3 days each year, and only if those dates happened to be a Wednesday or a Saturday when the numbers were drawn, but Eddie successfully had people purchase winning lottery tickets 3 more times, and it was the 5th and final time that would be his downfall. Hot Lotto was approaching its 3rd highest jackpot ever, $16.5 million, and it was December the 29th, one of 3 days each year when Eddie could predict the winning numbers. This time, however, he foolishly purchased the ticket himself, and he did so in Iowa, even though he knew that Iowa had the strictest security of all the states that took part in Hot Lotto, and even though he knew they would have camera footage of him buying the winning ticket, somehow Eddie thought that this was going to be okay. Eddie! I mean, this is the problem. He's been doing it for so long. Like, we think it's insane, but Eddie's been doing it for so long, and no one has ever followed up, and he's like, you are incompetent. Like, I don't even need to take all these precautions of getting my friends to do it, and then their lawyers kind of doing the thing and stealing the numbers and all of this. Why do all of that shit, which is expensive and I have to split it with people, when it's a joke and I can just go in and buy it myself? And that because he's built up this confidence in his mind over years and seeing this insane incompetence, in my opinion. After being the sole winner of the jackpot, he gave the ticket to a buddy, of which with one simple set of instructions. Don't wait until the last minute to redeem the ticket. That's when there would be the most scrutiny. I don't know why that would be the case. Why would there be more scrutiny if he's redeeming at the last minute? 1 year later, 2 hours before the ticket would have expired, a pair of lawyers walked into the lottery office to attempt to collect the jackpot on behalf of an anonymous trust. Well, okay then, in that case, it's like, I didn't realize it was a year that it expired for, and doing it 2 hours before, that's just like, why do that? I mean, don't do that. But I'm saying, like, a couple of months later, that's fine, isn't it? MUSL denied the claim as Iowa doesn't allow people to anonymously claim lottery winnings, which is bullshit and I believe an entirely American rule. In fact, it is. I made a video about this recently on another channel, and it was all about like what happens after you win the lottery. And America's just like, yeah, you have to like announce it. You have to come in and claim it yourself, and people know that you've won the lottery, and then they offer no financial assistance.
It's bullshit.
Whereas in the UK, there's like, it's anonymous for one, and then there's a team of financial advisors for free to help you deal with the fact that you're suddenly very rich, which I think is brilliant. Get on that shit, America. It's kind of bad that you don't have that, because the stats of people like winning the lottery and going bankrupt are pretty bad. You can't just give someone $5 million or 100 or half a billion or 1.6 billion or whatever it is, and expect them to know how to deal with that when they're buying lottery tickets. So they're not the brightest tool in the shed already, are they? Brightest tool in the shed? Sharpest tool in the shed. I'm not the brightest tool in the shed. America already refuses to provide resources to lottery winners to keep them from destroying their own lives, and by forcing them to make their identities public, it's like they're actively trying to ruin these people's lives. Yes, that it does seem exactly like that, and it's fucking stupid. You need to change it. Come on, America, you're better than that. At least in Massachusetts, you can claim the winnings through a trust, so if I somehow win the lottery, no one will ever know. Kevin just suddenly stops writing for Brave Blazers. Like, where's Kevin? Oh, he probably won the lottery, didn't he? That's what happens. Or Kevin's like just doing these scripts, and it's like, as I write this poolside from my mansion. It's like, Kevin, Jesus. When did I start paying you so much? While there was an intense investigation, it took 3 years before the lottery rigging was finally connected to Eddie. He went to trial in 2015 with the plea of not guilty, but he was ultimately convicted. He was sentenced to 10 years in jail! Oh my god! America! Holy shit, that's a lot of time in jail. But he was released on bond while awaiting appeal. Interestingly enough, almost all of the evidence used to convict Eddie was all wrong. There was video footage of the person buying the winning ticket, but they were wearing a hoodie, so it theoretically could have been a different person with a similar build. The prosecution didn't have anything constituting a smoking gun, but they had plenty of hearsay and conjecture, which are kind of evidence. The computer that was responsible for selecting the random numbers was locked in a room with glass walls so that people could see what was inside, and nobody was allowed to enter the room alone. The prosecution argued that he went in on the day of the drawing and inserted a flash drive to hack the computer and make it select specific numbers for that day. How did he get convicted for 10 years when the prosecution doesn't even know what the f***'s going on? But none of that was true. The surveillance footage was inconclusive because MUSL's cameras were pieces of shit that like to malfunction and record at 1 frame per minute. What the f***? It's like a Mission Impossible movie. Ethan, you've got 59 seconds. Go. And he has to be in and out before the next frame comes up, you know? In real life, I didn't realize that it existed. But apparently it does. At the computers which control the lottery for millions, if not billions of dollars. The f***. But it potentially wasn't even Eddie in the room that day. Even if it was, there were other people with him and he didn't do anything untoward. He didn't need to, because it installed his code 5 years earlier. It's actually possible that Eddie might have won the appeal until an anonymous tipster told investigators that his brother had won the lottery too, intensifying the investigation. Forensic analysis of the software finally found the 2 lines of code that had been inserted to manipulate the drawings on specific days. Now that they realized Eddie hadn't just rigged the lottery one time, it was time to add some more charges onto the pile. They had found his secret lines of code, so this time he pled guilty and explained everything that had happened. In June of 2017, he was convicted a second time and sentenced to 25 years in prison. What the f***? This is insane! Like, obviously, Eddie is a criminal. Like, he stole and he frauded or whatever. But also, he just took advantage of a flaw. Like, I know it's a crime, and he should go to prison, but like, fuck 6 months, guys. Maybe a year. Who the fuck did he hurt? 25 years in prison? You fucking insane?
Yes, I am.
Though his lawyers that thought they could get him paroled in 3 or 4. Good, that seems a lot more reasonable. 25? They weren't far off as Eddie was approved for parole in January 2022. I'm glad you're free, Eddie, because, you're a criminal, blah, blah, blah. It's not a good thing you did. But Jesus Christ, facing down 25 years. I'm glad you're free. But then he got into a fight, so he didn't get out until that June. His brother... Wait, he got into fighty prison? Why did he go to fighty prison? Wait... He rigged the lottery because he was the head of security at the lottery and he went to dangerous fighty prison for 25 years? This just seems absurd. His brother Tommy was only sentenced to 75 days in prison for his part in the fraud, though he also has resigned his position as a judge. Yeah, that seems completely legitimate. That was probably a smart idea since he had testified under oath to Eddie's innocence at the first trial. Oh no. Don't do perjury if you're a fucking judge. The pair were also ordered to pay a combined $2.3 million in restitution, though as far as I can tell, they've paid back basically none of that. Only in America. Originally, this episode was going to be about multiple rigged lotteries and sweepstakes, but this lottery story was so wild it wound up taking the entire word count. Hopefully, this does well enough to justify a follow-up episode on the McDonald's Monopoly game, which I know it is crazy. Oh my god, yes. If this, please do well this video, because I feel like I've done a video about the McDonald's Monopoly game before, but I'd like to make one of these videos where I get to comment on the absurdity of it as well. But until then, I'll leave you with one final story. What would you do if you won a $6 million jackpot? Probably nothing different, honestly. I'd put it in the bank, and then I'd be like, okay, back to work we go. Maybe I'd buy a few cool things. Even after taxes and taking the lump sum payment, that's still almost 2.5 million. You win 6. This was on the other video as well, like about the ones when you win the lottery in different countries. There was the big comparison between like the US and the UK. And it's like in the US, yes, I want $6 million. And then after you've been like, oh yeah, but I want all the money now, which seems like a reasonable request. And of course, taxes, you're down to 2.5. In the UK, they're like, oh, you want £6 million? Here's a check. Does the government want any of it? No, they don't, because it's tax-free, which is stupid. But cool. I mean, it's cool to be like the person who won that and didn't have to pay any taxes on it. But also, they should tax the shit out of lottery, obviously. What the fuck you doing, government? If someone gets free money that they made no effort to get, take your share. It's the one thing no one's going to be upset about, government.
You have a poison in your mind, and the fact that you can't see it makes me so sad.
But still, $2.5 million is a life-changing amount of money. You're probably pretty psyched, right? You'd probably be even more psyched if you live somewhere in Europe where you'd actually get to keep the $6 million too. Yes, Kevin! But if you'd be... No, it's not just like... I live in Czech Republic, they tax your lottery because they've got a big brain. And they're like, yeah, let's tax that. Whereas in the UK, they're just like, it's all good, boys! Gambling! Woo! But if you'd be happy winning $6 million, then you wouldn't be Larry Dawson. Larry won the hot lotto a couple of $1 million after the fraudulent $16.5 million lottery jackpot. Oh, he would have wanted it to roll over, so he'd have won more, so he's going to sue. That's kind of big brain. I can't find I'd do that. Yeah. It's like 6 million's not enough. Maybe the 16.5, you'd actually be left with 6 million. I can't find a complete listing of all the dates the jackpot in some small lottery was won 13 years ago, but presumably he was the next jackpot winner. He was also pissed. Once the verdict came down that Eddie was guilty of fraud, that meant that the jackpot hadn't been hit and it never should have reset back to $1 million. In 2016, shortly after Eddie's conviction, Larry sued the Iowa Lottery and the MUSL for $10 million on the basis that his prize would have been at least $16 million if the jackpot had not been acknowledged as fraudulent. Wow. I bet some big brain lawyer came to him about this and said, like, mate, I've got an idea. I'll do it for free and I'll take half. Something like that. Some big brain lawyer. Because this is America, the only country where you can give somebody $1, have them give you $6 million in return, and then sue them for not giving you more. I'm sorry, I disagree with you, Kevin. I'd fucking sue. And I'm not even American. I'll be like, let's go. This is a pretty silly lawsuit based entirely on wild speculation. If Eddie hadn't rigged the lottery and won that jackpot, the winning numbers would have been different, which means somebody else might have won instead. Lotteries, yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Lottery sales also increase dramatically based on the size of the jackpot. I probably spend an average of about $5 per year on lottery because when Powerball goes to $1 billion jackpot, then hell, I'll buy a ticket. Yeah, look, as much as I rag on like lottery people buying tickets, when it I don't anymore. Because now it's the problem. Like, if I won the lottery, people would be like, oh, Simon's just successful because he won the lottery. And that would kind of be damaging to, like, my work ethic and ego. But, like, back when I wasn't successful, if it, like, got to hundreds of millions of pounds, I'd buy a ticket. Why not?
And tickets for everybody!
It seems like they wouldn't give such a ludicrous lawsuit the time of day, and I'd fully expected the lottery to file a motion to dismiss. In fact, they probably did, but it wasn't so successful. Ultimately, the MUSL settled with Larry for an additional $1.5 million. Props, Larry. I've got to give it to him. That was a ballsy lawsuit to attempt, and one that has truly inspired me to attempt my own lawsuit based on speculation and alternate history. Last Wednesday, I ordered some pizzas, which were supposed to be ready at 9:30. I went to pick them up and intended to buy a Powerball ticket on the way back home, but my order wasn't ready when they promised for the next 20 minutes. They kept insisting that the pizzas would be ready in a minute, but by the time they were done, I missed the 9:50 cutoff to buy a Powerball ticket. Had they not fraudulently claimed that my order would be ready at 9:30, I obviously would have purchased the winning Powerball ticket before picking up my pizzas. Obviously. Thanks to Larry's precedent, I will now be suing the MUSL, Massachusetts Lottery, and Stachy's Pizza for $600 million that I should have won. If any of them would like to avoid the legal headache, I too am willing to settle for just $1.5 million. Kevin, good luck with that. They'll probably just like, no, you have to give Stachy's Pizza like $1 because that's what you saved because you would have won the lottery statistically, like you're going to, like you always do. Thanks for watching. We call them scratch cards in the UK. These things are such a scam. I've told this story before, right?